So if we look at the original reference image, you can see that, our building is kind of illuminated, but the rest of the scene is pretty overcast lighting. It's very foggy. It's very, obscured. It's mostly very soft lighting. It's not harsh sunlight. So I kind of wanted to replicate that and also draw attention to our building here because it's kind of the focal point of our scene. And I am going to be adding some more buildings in the background, but I want to go over the lighting of this scene first. Obviously, we have our HDRI backdrop, which is in here. We can always load a different HDRI by clicking right here, and we can go and find a new one if we choose. And I might do that later, but for now, we're going to leave it as this. This is kind of adding some fill light to our scene. It's kind of giving us this like pink tone to our snow. You can mess with the intensity of that. That's the main thing that you're going to be messing with. You can also mess with the position of it. So if you don't want these streaks in the sky, you can kind of just click on it, hit E, and rotate it around if you like. However, I like it in this current position. So that's kind of giving us this base layer of lighting. And if I turn off this spotlight, so that's what that's doing. And if I go to our directional light, you can turn this on. So that's what we're getting if we turn on the directional light. The perks of using a directional light are it's going to fill your whole scene, obviously. It's basically your sun. If you click on it, you can rotate it around. So you can have the light coming from over here, for example. And what I'm actually going to do is turn off this post-processing volume. So if we grab our second directional light, so if this is our only directional light, now we can better see what's going on. So we can rotate it around here. And you see I have these light rays set up. So I'll show you guys how to do that in a minute. But we can rotate it like that. We can also rotate it down and up. And, we can rotate it this way as well. So we can essentially get any positioning of our sun that we want in the scene. So let me go into how we set up these light rays. Obviously, we have control over the intensity here. So if we turn it down, we're getting no light. If we turn it up, we're getting a lot more light. You can also set this to any number, so you can set it a lot higher as well. But I'm not going to do that. Set it around 38. So the way that we get these light rays here is if we go down and look into our light shaft settings. So this is usually how your light is set up initially when you open Unreal Engine and when you first create a light. And you can do that by simply going over here and grabbing a directional light, and you just drag it into your scene. If we turn on our light shaft occlusion, now you can see we're already getting some light shafts. I also want to mention that you aren't going to see any light shafts unless you have exponential height fog enabled. So if you go over here and you grab some exponential height fog, we'll just set that up first, and then we'll go into the lighting. If you turn on volumetric fog, that's going to give you a little bit better lighting in your fog. Scattering distribution is going to kind of spread out the light rays, so you're not going to get them as sharp. It's going to be kind of more blown out. So our first setting that we can mess with here is the fog density, and it does max out right here, but you can actually just go and type in any number that you want and get the fog to be as thick as you like. So, something like that. But here's another setting that you can mess with is the fog height fall off. So if you turn this up, your fog is going to be thicker at the bottom than it is at the top. So this does max out at 2. If we increase this value up to 2, you can see that the fog is laying more on our surface here, and it's falling off as we go up into the sky. So that means that up here, things are very clear. But if you look down, we have fog that's laying in our scene right here. So that's a really nice way to make some realistic looking fog in your scene. And it's going to help you achieve that realism a little better. Max opacity, if you bring this down, you'll be able to see through the fog much better. Your in-scattering color, that's just kind of, the color that the fog is creating in your scene. If you've ever seen fog in real life, or fog generated by a fog machine, for example, it's often a little bit bluish, has bluish tint to it. But if you wanted to make it look like some other sort of gas, or maybe colored smoke from something, you could always change this color, to red or anything that you want. That's going to give you that color tone cast throughout your fog. We're going to want to have volumetric fog enabled for our scene. So I'm going to go over to our directional light here now, and we can work on this. If we want these light rays in our scene, we can go down here to our light shafts, turn on light shaft occlusion, turn this up or down, the occlusion mask darkness, and if we turn it down, we're going to get more pronounced light rays. What I do like to do is turn on the light shaft bloom. We can give these light shafts a little bit more punch. So if it's not really showing up enough in your scene, or if you want to have it kind of at an off angle like this, you can get these light shafts to show up a little bit better if you have this bloom turned on. So something like that, for example, it's going to give you a little bit better result. So you can just mess with the bloom scale. I wouldn't turn it up too much. I would leave it somewhere close to the initial value, just so that you're not getting anything too crazy. And obviously the bloom threshold, if you turn it down to 0, that's going to give it bloom at any value. If you turn it up, it's not going to be as pronounced because you're increasing the threshold of where it's going to engage that bloom. And you can turn your bloom brightness down as well. And you can also tint this. Okay, so you can give your light shafts a certain kind of color and look. Those are the main features of the directional light. Light shaft occlusion is a big thing with that.